So those people live in very, very close proximity to one another. They cannot talk to one another, and their genetics shows you also that they're not mixing so much with one another. And if we now move again to the nuclear ones, then 2 Europeans would have roughly 3 million to 3.3 million differences on the single nucleotide polymorphisms in their chromosomes. And Archbishop Tutu has 3.6 and KB1 4.04 million. So you can see significant more. But what is interesting of the novel SNPs that we find, you could say, so what makes those people genetically so diverse? And one of the women that we work with asked, are you going to show that we are closer to the monkeys? And it just tells you what an excellent understanding of genetics those people have. And we were very relieved to find, if we compared dispositions with Europeans, then in 86% the Europeans had the ancestral allele from the chimpanzee, and the Bushmen had a modification. So the Bushmen are a very drifted genome, and the Europeans are the cavemen. And why are the Europeans the cavemen? Because of this history with the Neanderthal, and this was beautifully in timing with the work from Svante Paavo, where then it could be shown that an average European to this date has about 2% of Neanderthal alleles. And so this introgression into the European genome is what is in part responsible for this finding. But the message to close up here is that even so we say Africans, we don't understand that this distances, genetic distances between a Bantu from South Africa, a Yoruba from West Africa, and a Bushman are as far as it is from a European to a West African. So we treat them as ones, but they have the same genetic distances as between the major ethnic groups. 2 Bushmen to one another are genetically as different as is a European from a Chinese. And what we try to learn from that, Bushmen have an amazing abilities for vision, hearing, taste. For example, it's said that the Bushmen can see the moons of Saturn by their bare eye, hear an airplane from 100 kilometers away. Of course, all of this needs to be validated. This is all anecdotal. But at the same time, it is clear in the genome that they have many more taste receptors, bitter receptors. And if you live from a plant diet, I think it's very important that you can differentiate bitter tastes. For example, coffee. In the course of that study, I learned that coffee had 850 different bitter tastes. And this is why some of us like the one coffee and not like the other coffees, because we don't have the same receptors. But for the Bushmen, this is really essential for their survival. And they have this longevity. This gentleman here, Igubi, he is 88 years old, and he's using the jump rope and show his grandchildren how to do it. They have a lipid metabolism that's different, that lets them grow very big buttrocks. And this buttrock is like an energy storage. And that energy can then later be used to convert it back into water. In this process of the hydrolysis, they get water from it. And this is why they can go for 10 days without drinking in a hot environment, and every other person would pretty much die and succumb after 3 days. Using this data, Adam Siepel and his group then showed, so this was the big danger that we thought, oh my God, we might be the ones to show that the Bushmen are closer to the chimpanzees. And what you can see is that the modern humans as a species are 200,000 years old, and roughly about 130,000 years ago, the Bushmen separated from the others, and then there was a genetic drift that made them genetically different, and this was also happening in a very small group. And so this is where we stand here, and you can see this part here, this European part, is not older than 60,000 years, and Yoruban and Bantu is roughly maybe 100,000, and then the San population 130,000. And I'll close by giving you that overview. It's one of my favorite graphs here, where we have a red and a dead list from the Organization for the Endangered Animals. And so the red ones are the ones that are close to extinction. The dead ones are the gray ones, meaning the mammoth, the thylacine, that already went extinct. And if you now look for the Europeans, they are pretty much on the right side of the graph. And what I'm trying to say with that, we might not be genetically very diverse, but we are many. And we are in control of resources. And the exact other opposite position to that is the Bushmen. They have this amazing genetic diversity. They have population numbers that probably is way, way less than 100,000. I think it's only a few thousand people who are left. They are not in control of their resources. And if you ask me, we are probably witnessing the same event that happened in Europe 3,000 to 4,000 years ago, when the incoming herders and farmers replaced, meaning killed, driven off, the hunter-gatherers that lived in Europe. And even though they overlapped for 1,000 years in Europe, the end result was that none of those hunter-gatherers in Europe survived. Unlike the Neanderthal, we don't find any traces in our modern European genomes. And so the lesson from that is, if it comes to extinction, there are three things that matter: habitat, habitat, habitat. If you don't have habitat, it does not matter that you are 100,000 elephants, because if the 100,000 elephants all have the same genetic makeup, as shown for the Tasmanian devil, a pathogen comes in, and the lack of genetic diversity just allows you and wipes out this population. This is the conclusion, and let me show you of some of the faces that you see in the small group of people living there, how much diversity we saw here. Even this guy is an African here. And also very exciting about the Bushman project, that this were all the researchers that worked for free and the companies here that supported the project and did not ask for any IP. They were purely interested really in finding this and making this publicly available. This is Tasmanian devil people, ancient DNA people, mammoth investigators, the polar bear. Sorry if I'm really fast here. Thank you very much for your